Oh yes. My name is Pavol Kulanda. I'm an aquascaper. I come from Slovakia originally, but I've been living in Northern Ireland for 20 years. Keeping the tanks for many years, probably like 30 years. But in most recently, maybe 2 years ago, I tried to pay more attention to the designing aquarium itself than keeping the fish. And that's when I came across the aquascaping. And then in the recent years, maybe like 8, I would say, I've been entering the competitions, which was my main focus. Now I need to find this rock I showed you before. You know, where is it? This is it. Kind of like a canyon shape with 2 large formations on each side. And then going towards the back, you'll get narrower and narrower, so you'll have a nice small endpoint, which will create the depth. Beginning is quite slow with this rock because you need to lay the foundations. So you need to make sure it's all stable, and then you just keep adding gradually. As I mentioned, the idea was to create something more complex, like we could say on the competition level. But I would like to emphasize that, you know, it doesn't necessarily need to be all complicated when you're trying to enter the contest. Usually we see many just classic nature aquariums. As long as they're very healthy and well laid out, in a great balance, you can have a good go at the competition as well with that type of layout. This small rock here doesn't have any function or a visual impact for the scape. It is placed here at the back just to stabilize the front structure. It's glued here because it was very difficult to glue this one to this one, so I glued it from the back to the smaller rock. Just need to think about what I'm gonna do at the back, because I can always do like a tunnel, like an arch view from the bottom, or I can just leave it open. That's what I need to think about now, because I need to start putting rocks towards the back, then build a height. My main idea I had in my mind was like a division of canyon deep in the jungle. That's why I tried to use red Moor roots on the top with lots of ferns. And then for the canyon we used Pagoda stone, which is I think very great just for that feeling of the canyon, because we have many layers that actually look like we will see in the nature when the water flows and create these type of layers over the millions of the years. I'm actually thinking I might not need any wood. The rock is so good itself, by its own. Like, I'll decide. What you can see, I went for the concave composition with the 2 main structures on each side, and then you have your view, and your attention should be paid to view the tank with a focal point at the end. I try to move it slightly off the center, because if we move the endpoint very centrally, if you place it very centrally, then we will create two symmetrical layout. So as you can see, this side is much heavier than this side. So I think it's creating a great balance that way. Let's talk about aquarium as well. Mentioned the UNS. We use the UNS 90P, which is 90 centimeters by 45 by 45. Created a little bit of challenge for me because I like to use the deeper tanks. At home I have the 50 centimeter depth. It gives you more space to create the perspective and depth, so you can add more layers. Substrate, we used lava substrate. It was great for building up the height. It creates great environment for the beneficial bacteria to grow and help to stabilize the aquarium. It also contains some nutrients. So on that substrate I started placing the stones, and then I took it from there. As soon as I selected these two main stones on the sides, on the bottom, then I was just trying to follow the lines of the stone, so it leads my eye towards the vanishing point. And the same on the other side, I followed the lines of the stones, try to both sides direct to the vanishing point. And then at the end, when I built both sides high enough and I created enough layers towards the back, then we selected some red Moor roots, and I'll just try to play with that, to glue them, create this effect of draping roots like you would see in the jungle. On the sides, where the stone is connecting to the glass, I use the sheet of the black sponge that will protect the glass as well. Then it will block the substrate at the back to coming forward, so it's nicely secured. And then I use the black sponge because, let's say, if I didn't have the plants, which I eventually covered the sponge with the plants on the sides here, but if I didn't have it, you would create a shadow in these two areas, and then that way the black sponge would actually blend in really well, and it doesn't reflect on your side glass, so you cannot see it if you don't try to cover it with plants. Plants, maybe let's talk about plants a little bit. As I mentioned, on the top I use lots of ferns, Bulbairis huduloti, Microsorum trident. Then at the far back I used Microsorum deformis, which is very small fern that will create more illusion of the depth. And in the background, which you can't see at the moment, are 4 types of stem plants. And in the corners we have Pogostemon erectus. The idea of that plant, why I would like to use it, is because when these ferns will grow bushier, they will basically cover the front corners, so you will not be able to see the plants at the back as we will do for the final photo. But because this tank is going to be viewed by customers also from the top, so I try to use Pogostemon erectus because it has that ability to grow out of water because of its strong stalk. And then we continued on towards the center at the back with the smaller texture or finer texture stem plants. In the central part, I use lots of slower growing plants, Eriocaulum cinerum, then there is Helantium tenellum. We have some Marsilea minuta, Cryptocorin parva, lots of Anubias and Bucephalandras in the shadow areas on the rocks. first couple of weeks will be very crucial for water quality. Before the tank goes through nitrogen cycle and stabilizes itself, we need to do more frequent water changes. Also because we use lots of tissue culture plants at the back, they are like baby plants, they require minimum ammonia in the water, otherwise they can start melting. I will go for my favorite fish that I always like to use, and it always works really well in many types of layouts, which is Greenion tetra, Paracheriogonus simulans. I think it will actually quite work well here as well, because we have lots of reds from the rocks and we have greens, and Greenion tetra has nice greenish bluish tint, so it will stand out really well, especially in the shadowy areas. It will look really well, and I think actually they will be very comfortable in the central space in the tank.